WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman, brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy, compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Good evening. Thank you for listening, and welcome to WPG Talk Radio 1450, part of Town Square Media, Atlantic City. For our monthly, it's very exciting. The call volume last month was absolutely spectacular. We hope that you step up again tonight. We have a lot of important questions as well here in studio for United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ask the Congressman. It's your opportunity, your access directly to your representative. If you think about it, the Town Square is all about the government being closest to the people. And that's what the House of Representatives was set up to be, 2-year terms, so that you would have to stand before the people often. And it's the branch of the federal government that's the closest to the people. And how much closer can you get than on your smartphone, your iPhone, Android phone, laptop, desktop, iPad, and, of course, through our Radio Pup app as well, or at WPG1450.com, where you can pose your questions through the website. Chris Coleman and I are monitoring that all hour long. And also you can hashtag WPG Ask the Congressman, and you can tweet your questions in as well. Congressman LoBiondo, there's not much going on, is there, sir?
Just a quiet stroll in the park, Harry.
The first question would be an obvious one, except for the fact that an extraordinary first took place, and we had the opportunity to talk about it right before the Pope was coming to America. But you and Tina, you had the opportunity to be in the presence of the Holy Father, an absolute first in American history where a sitting pope, any pope, past or present, no pope has ever addressed a session of Congress. What was that like?
I wish my vocabulary could accommodate the feeling, the senses, what the atmosphere was like.
Did it seem surreal?
It was surreal. And it started the day before. It started Wednesday because sort of, at least by Washington standards, at the very last minute, there was a welcoming ceremony at the White House. And it was going to be outside. It was going to be on the South Lawn. And members of Congress were allowed to bring one guest. And we were told there were probably going to be 20,000 people there. So
you chose wisely, by the way.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I'm thinking, 20,000 people. And I said to Tina, my wife, I said, I don't know how we're going to get through this. They wanted us there at like 6 in the morning. And this is, we're going to stand there till 10 o'clock. And there's, this is, I don't know. And she said, listen, it's the Pope. We're gone. The end of the discussion.
It's like it's the one and only chance. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Well, it was a picture-perfect day. I will tell you the logistics were handled perfectly.
Proud moment how safe this country kept the Pope.
It was extraordinary. The welcoming ceremony was great. Of course, the president got a little bit political, which you expected him to do. But you just had this sense of the Pope coming to Washington, and he was going to address Congress. And then the next day, Thursday, I'll tell you, there was one disappointment. And as we got into the chamber, and there was a sense of anticipation, and what is he going to say, and what is he going to bring up? And everybody's sitting there waiting, and we knew he was going to speak in English. We know his English is not all that good.
He worked hard on that, though.
He worked hard on that. But the press corps, and of course the press gallery was packed. They all had copies of his speech. We did not.
Oh, that's bad.
We did not. So we're all struggling with every word he's saying, and the reality is we missed a lot of.
Had you had that, you could have been following along.
We really could have been much more meaningful.
And then you understand everything.
So, Pete King is next to me, and I said, he would ask me, what did he just say? And I would ask him, what did he just say? And but it was an extraordinary moment, very extraordinary moment.
Congressman, so the first thing I would have brought up, had it not been for the once and forever moment of the Pope in America and the Pope before Congress, is the current situation involving the Speaker of the House. Speaker Boehner, you've known him for many, many decades. He shocked the world by not only stepping out, but by stepping out even before the middle of the current term. How have you processed all of this? And tell our listeners, to the extent that you can, I know it's as fluid as can be, but tell us where this stands.
Well, tremendous shock. And just to sort of put it in context, I've been told that never in the history of the nation has a sitting speaker removed himself that there wasn't a health reason or a scandal.
Right, Speaker Wright and some things like that, but that was all scandal-ridden.
Scandal-ridden, and I think if you go back far enough, there were some health issues with some of the speakers.
Yes. Has Speaker Boehner just had enough?
I think it's a combination. My read, and I've looked at this pretty carefully over the last couple of years, is he believes in getting stuff done. Now, in getting stuff done, you need 218 votes. The group of Republican members of Congress who've dubbed themselves the Freedom Caucus number about 40, and if they all block vote, we don't get to 218. So if you don't get to 218 and you have to govern, so if there are certain things you have to govern with, you can't leave the government shut down forever. You can't just default forever. You've got to do certain things. You're always going to have less of a good outcome if Boehner had to go get votes somewhere else. And that's what he was forced to do repeatedly. So it was almost a self-fulfilling promise, and that he was weaker because it was a bipartisan vote. So if he had 218 Republican votes, and let me tell you, Harry, these guys were asked, at least for the last couple of years, to actually write the bills. Actually sit at the table and write the bills. I was in the conferences where I was cringing because they were given this opportunity, and when it came time to get to the floor, they changed their mind.
So is this an insatiability?
It's an insatiability.
Well, that's a problem.
There is nothing. Well, yeah. There are the list of demands that you can offer these individuals, and as far as I'm concerned, it is.
Is it basically
it's impossible.
Total and utter control?
A total and utter control.
100%.
100% their way. So to answer your question that you asked, this has been increasing a little bit more, to the point now where they've gone to Boehner and they said, we will demand everything we've asked for, and now we want it all immediately. And without that, we will burn the place down. So I think Boehner looked at a couple of things. I think he looked at, first of all, protecting the institution, and he's been a big guy to protect. Regardless of what you think of him, he's always put the institution first, and he didn't want to put the institution through that. Secondly, he saw what it was going to do to the Republican conference, and he did not want to put us through that. And thirdly, he's a human being. Putting himself through this, his arms were being ripped out of the sockets. So I think if you put all that together, I don't know, nobody saw this coming, at least not at this point.
You know, I'm a big fan or believer. I don't like it necessarily, so I won't say a fan, but a believer in what I call the law of unintended consequences. And what could happen here? And I don't want to get too far into the weeds because maybe Congressman Ryan steps up. He seems to be acceptable to all or much of the Freedom Caucus, at least for the moment. So if he steps up and it's unanimous, I mean, then this issue is it's resolved. But say it doesn't get resolved, this could involve Speaker Boehner staying for an extended period, and then he is literally unbridled. He doesn't have to worry about anything at that point. He can do, quote unquote, what he thinks is the right thing. He can take his 206 votes, whatever he's got, and 20 more on the other side, or even less than that, and then he can go about doing what he needs to do.
Well, I don't like that. That's the irony of all this, because Boehner has made it clear. I was in a meeting of a relatively small group with Boehner as recently as a week ago. In fact, a week ago tomorrow, and he said, "Look, I've come to grips with leaving. I'm planning on leaving. I'm making the arrangements to leave, but I will not leave. I will not vacate unless we have a speaker." And he has also made preparations to stay if necessary. Well, for the Freedom Caucus, this could be their biggest nightmare because, as you said, he's someone who wants to govern.
Before he was keeping peace, trying to work with all members, and giving people a place at the table, as you say, even offering to write the bills, to get along, to stay together. But at this point in time, I would think the rules would be totally different.
Well, they are. And if you think back to Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan did not have a majority of Republicans in the House of Representatives.
But he had his
or in Congress.
evil Democrats.
But he had a working majority. Why? Because of blue dog Democrats. And he was able to reach a compromise, a governing compromise that arguably, from I think your point of view and my point of view, was good for America.
Clearly was good for America.
And
tax cuts, all kinds of things.
Your words were exactly what I've been saying. Boehner is now unbridled. These guys can't threaten to vacate the chair. These guys, there's nothing they can threaten him with. He is ready to go. And if they continue to make these totally unbelievably unreasonable demands, there won't be a speaker. And that means Boehner stays. Now, does it last beyond October 31st? Does it last beyond, November? Does it
Well, look at it this way. We're at October 13th as we do this program live tonight. And incidentally, if you're just joining us and you missed the very first part of the last 15 minutes or whatever, this Sunday at 12 noon hour, you'll hear the whole program. We always do that. Chris Coleman, our executive program director, puts that all together. Our president, Mike Rubel, is with us tonight. And this is a very, very, very big night here on Ask the Congressman because there are so many issues. So Boehner won't, if there's not a speaker before the 31st of October, he's not going to leave. He's
not leaving. He that's absolutely.
So there's no crisis. Fact, so when the media says crisis, chaos,
no.
There's a speaker until there's a new speaker.
And the leadership team is completely in place. McCarthy, which was another huge surprise, big surprise, almost a bigger surprise than Boehner in terms of the timing and all. He's not going anywhere. He's majority leader. The conference leader, majority whip, the rest of the leadership team, nobody is going anywhere. It's all about speaker. It's all about the Freedom Caucus and what their demands will be. And if their demands tomorrow were the same as their demands were last week, then Boehner's going to be there for a little while.
It's almost impossible to venture a guess at what is going to happen next, isn't it?
I could not have predicted it. I have a better chance of giving you the 6 lottery numbers for whenever the next lottery is. I mean, this is impossible to figure out. There are so many twists and turns. And every time you think you're looking at a calm ocean, there are rip currents that are just unbelievable.
And they whipsaw you.
They whipsaw you. This is really uncharted territory. So
let me ask you this, because obviously the Democratic Democratic media is just, they're in happy joy land. It's incredible for them. But in reality, is this a big deal? Is this bad for the Republican brand?
Well, right now it's bad.
But think about it, though. What's so bad? Boehner is speaker. There is no vacancy. There's no void. It's not like, oh my gosh, they left us without a speaker. There's no speaker of the House, second or third in line, depending if you count the first, to the presidency. This is chaos. It's unbelievable. He's there until the Republicans work this out.
Well, for anybody who thinks about it for more than 30 seconds, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But most people don't think about it for more than 30 seconds. Most people
want it to be neat and tidy and not have
take the soundbite from the national media, and the sky is falling, and the world is coming to an end, and Republican Party is going to end as we know it, and that is not the case. In fact, there are several scenarios where we could come out stronger than we were before, and the couple of big governing issues that we are facing between now and the end of the year, if they are handled right, and it's a big if, I will give you that, we could set the stage for the Republican nominee, whoever that is next year, and we could set the stage to keep a strong majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate.
In terms of Paul Ryan, if he steps up and declares his candidacy, I would presume if he steps up, then he's already figured out that it's going to work. He's got the votes and it's going to work. I don't think he'll announce with any unknown. But if he steps up, he's a good man, right?
Paul Ryan's a great man. He's a really smart guy. He's a man of principle. Now, you think about this. Here's a guy who was good enough to be vice president of the United States. And had it not been for 3 million people staying home in 2012 that voted in 2008, the guy would be vice president right now. So he's good enough to be vice president for the Republican Party, but for 40 members of the Freedom Caucus, he's not good enough to be Speaker of the House. Now, is that a definition of insanity or what?
Ditto. I mean, it just absolutely makes...
Now, this is a guy who's brilliant on numbers. He's brilliant. One of the reasons that is...
He's Ways and Means chairman.
Which is one of his goals in life after chairing budget, which he wanted to do. Ways and Means was even bigger because Ways and Means is the tax reform, which he so desperately believes that he can do. I equate this to when John Kasich said, I can balance the budget and I could bring Clinton along to do this.
And he did.
And he did. Where Paul Ryan is saying, I can get tax reform that will strengthen the economy and I can bring everybody together to do it. So the guy is extraordinary. He's got great talents. He's really liked by the Democrats. And that might be one of the things that,
I'll tell
this crazy group.
Obama gave him the horns when Obama announced he wants the next speaker to be Paul Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a troublemaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you remember what Obama did to him when there was that thing at the White House, whatever that was, when he berated him or, wouldn't let him ask a question or whatever that was?
Yes.
Yeah. So
we have to take our first break. Congressman LoBiondo's program always flies by. Don't you be shy, ladies and gentlemen. 609-407-1450 phone lines. I promise you. Prove it. Call in. They're open, and they're for you to pose your questions. In between your questions, our next comment and question to the congressman is going to be about the president's what I'm calling one-man treaty with Iran, because he seems to be one of the only people genuinely in favor of this executive action that he has taken. And I'm going to load this question with some very serious stuff for the congressman next. It's Ask the Congressman on WPG. Talk Radio 1450. South Jersey's talk station. Stay with us.
WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman, brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy. Compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Listen to that national announcer. He knows what he is saying. 609-407-1450. Check in. And thank you, Mark Taylor and Curexa, proud presenting sponsors of Ask the Congressman. They're right off of Zion Road and Ocean Heights Avenue, right behind the strip mall, the gas station, Gulf Station, the Super K. Right behind all that is in the corner of the strip mall behind the strip mall on Mill Road is where Curexa is. Facing it, on the right-hand side. Beautiful, beautiful modern facility that Mark has put together. All right, so it's Ask the Congressman. United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo is here. I teased the president's one-man treaty with Iran. It looks worse, Congressman, by the day. With impunity, Iran is just sticking it to us at every turn. Now they've launched their first ever ballistic missile with precision guidance that can actually make course corrections midair. It can reach Israel. They're talking about death to America, wiping out Israel off the face of the map. They this week convict a Washington Post reporter. They won't even name the crimes he's been found guilty of. The family went to go find out what's he guilty of. They said, we don't have an interpreter here. Come back another time. It is a horrible, horrible, despotic regime. Will the president sign his one-man treaty?
Yes, he will.
Disgusting.
He is convinced. He's delusional, I think, unfortunately, for the country and for the world, that this is enforceable, that this is reasonable, and this is good. Everything that we have found out since word first was leaked has pointed to a disaster in the making. This ballistic missile test is just the latest in a scenario. And if people had any idea of what I will call the rest of the story, your hair would catch fire. The president is ignoring everything. And the people that he had negotiating this were the people who Bill Clinton had negotiating with North Korea.
And we know how that turned out.
This is a horrible situation, and if you need look at the side pieces, if you will. The Iranians are sending troops into Syria to fight with the Russians. So it's the Iranians and the Russians. The Russians are going to do the arms deal with the Iranians as the arms gets lifted, the arms embargo gets lifted, the sanctions money gets lifted. The Iranians are going to be arming Hezbollah even more than before. I mean, this whole thing is a disaster, and the president's going to tout it and continue to try to sell it as one of the biggest accomplishments in the history of civilization.
Madness, absolute madness. This is very dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
I mean, they have money now. They already sponsor terror. Now they have more money to sponsor terror. I always point this out so that people can appreciate just the first $150 billion that the president has freed up that they're going to have is the equivalent of $5 trillion here in America. So to give you an idea how much money that is, we are basically helping them create their nuclear program. We are
enabling in a very
being
terrible
Israel.
way. And you see, what people are failing to realize and understand is the general population of Iran was becoming very disgruntled and uneasy, to the point where the Iranian leadership, the Ayatollahs,
the sanctions were working.
They were having a real problem on their hands. They will spend a portion of this sanctions relief money on infrastructure, on making life better for everyday Iranians. So the pressure from everyday Iranians is going to go away. So everyday Iranians are going to be happier with their work. They're going to be happier with their quality of life. The pressure is going to be off the government. They can be even more despotic than they've ever been before. And that's, the whole thing is wrong. The sanctions were working. The sanctions should be kept in place. And I think there's still more that we're going to find out of how really bad this is.
Let me pivot to Russia through Syria and just point out for your comment that it appears to me, as an observer, that Putin is eating our president's lunch on a daily basis. He is putting together systematically the Soviet Union. When he bombed in Syria, he was bombing the people that we spent $500 million to evidently train, I think, an ultimate army of 9. Maybe it was 5. I've heard 2 different numbers. I mean, you talk about value, $100 million per person in that Syrian Free Army. So they're not bombing ISIS, who I think they eventually want to get, but he wants to help prop up Assad. So he kills the opposition. Am I so far accurate?
Right on the mark.
I'm doing all right.
Right on the mark.
So I guess Governor Mitt Romney, then presidential candidate Mitt Romney, years ago in the run-up to the 2012 election, I guess he knew what he was talking about when he said that Russia is our greatest geopolitical enemy, our greatest geopolitical threat. And then Obama mocked him, and the moderator laughed with him. And the 70s called. They want their foreign policy back, or 80s, whatever he said. It's not so funny now, is it?
No, and you have to go back a few years to this Russian reset. That
hardy, har.
Yeah, the Russian reset. And, after the next election, give me a chance to get reelected, and then we'll be able to deal. That's what Mr. Obama was telling the Russian when they were at that summit or whatever that was. So we've got a situation where the president has created this total picture of weakness to the Russians. They understand weakness. Putin has envisioned the grandeur of the Russian Empire for a long time. He sees this weakness. He's been planning to exploit it. He's done it with Ukraine. I think there's much more to come. This whole thing with Syria was planned out. It is such a slap in the face to the president. We need a quarterback on the field. We have a commentator in the booth. We don't even have a commentator in the booth anymore.
No.
The commentator left the booth. I don't even know if the commentator is in the stadium anymore.
And a commander-in-chief, Congressman, can't draw a red line in the sand, watch it be crossed, and do nothing. The horror and suffering to the Syrian people that is being imposed and done by Assad and now the Russians along with them, and the people that
are legitimately wanting to take Assad out, which was the president said was our goal, that's all been changed. Now the president has the audacity. This is the part I don't understand how he can get away with. He questioned his own Syrian strategy.
Yes.
Well, I questioned it from the beginning. Well, you questioned it from the beginning. Everybody questioned it from the beginning. You're the one who said we had to do it. Listen to the clip that they play with the president.
I did.
It's out.
And I give Steve Croft a lot of credit for actually following up on it, which they usually don't do, and he didn't expect it because he's used to not getting that kind of tough interview. I've been saying this for the full 7+ years. He is like a spectator. But, of course, remember, he got bin Laden, though.
Yeah.
He did that. But he's never responsible for anything else. He always says, I knew it. ISIS is the JV. I knew this was a bad strategy. You're chairman of some very important committees. Would you intentionally let something go that you know is not good? You would never allow that.
Well, I will tell you, and from a bipartisan perspective, this policy was severely questioned from the very beginning. And it was insisted by the administration that this is what we had to do. The administration still is insisting that the military has not provided a strategy. This is insanity. The military has a strategy. The president doesn't like the strategy. The president will never pull the trigger to do anything substantive to really get at the problem. He's hoping to spin the calendar forward, to leave office, and whoever the next president is has got a terrible mess on their hands if there isn't something much more serious that we're facing.
Your callers are standing by. I have one quick follow-up. How long do you think it will take to fix what Obama has broken? And there's so many areas economically here at home, domestically, our allies, we've destroyed relationships, our enemies don't fear us. The foreign policy of this administration has been disastrous. The purging in the military, the apparatus, the Navy now. I mean, my head wants to explode. I say it's 20 years to fix what he's done.
Well, I can't answer that question because remains to be seen. Do we somehow miraculously stop the hemorrhaging? And somehow
get it back quicker than we think.
At least not dig a hole any deeper, or do we keep digging a hole deeper? And we don't know that.
609-407-1450. Phone lines are open. This is his program, Congressman Frank LoBiondo. It is your program, Ask the Congressman. Joe, you're on the air. Go right ahead.
Congressman, quick question. The Chinese have been hacking into our computers with impunity, not just the businesses, but the government computers as well, FBI, and it seems like whatever they want to hack into, they can hack into. What would you do to try and stop this hemorrhaging?
Well, I think there has to be a retaliation. And we just had the president have the head of China at a state dinner, and, I don't know, maybe they sang Kumbaya, and I know they toasted and just acted as if nothing is wrong. And so the Chinese are going to help us get to the bottom of this problem. It's a joke, just like everything else they're doing. There are options available which we are refusing to take. And as long as we keep presenting a picture of weakness to the Russians and the Chinese, you're going to see more bad things happening.
All right. Thank you, Congressman.
Joe, thank you for listening. Thanks for calling in. It's your opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to ask the Congressman. 609-407-1450. Lillian has a question for the Congressman. You're on the air, Lillian. Go right ahead.
Good evening. I wanted to ask the Congressman about Planned Parenthood. I don't understand it. I'm beyond childbearing years, but still I'm concerned about it. Has money been put towards the Planned Parenthood plan? And if so, why? And is the selling of baby parts, which is insidious, connected with Planned Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood is a provider of women's health care, and it's also a provider of abortions. And about $500 million taxpayer dollars go to Planned Parenthood, but most of it through Medicaid. So that presents a particular problem. Now, I think that Planned Parenthood should be defunded. Now, doing that because it's through Medicaid becomes tricky. But here's also what I say very strongly, that money should go to legitimate women's health centers that unquestionably provide health-related opportunities for women, whether it be cancer screenings or whatever the women's health issues may be presenting themselves. And there are many, 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 many women's health centers that are not Planned Parenthood that are providing that now. The selling of unborn body parts of babies, all these horrific things that are happening. How are we even talking about this? I mean, how are we even talking about it? And how could anybody possibly, try to defend this? And I don't know in what way they defend it. So in order to make sure that there is no question about it at all, that it never takes place, I think we defund it. And I think that money goes to legitimate women's health agencies that will fund women's health care, and we somehow try to move on.
How does your fellow congressman feel about this? Do you have votes if that's what's needed for this?
Well, we've had a number of votes. We've probably had 10 so far, and I think a majority of the members of the House of Representatives agree with me. There are a number of members of House of Representatives who disagree with me. And just like a lot of other issues that become very controversial, this thing is in some degree stuck. And of course, the president adamantly disagrees with the position I've just laid out. And while the Senate, I think a majority of senators probably agree with the position, they can't get to 60 votes, so this cannot even be considered, because if you don't get to 60 votes in the Senate, you don't get to vote on it.
Yeah. Well, I thank you, but I just hope it stops. I really do, and goes in the direction that you have ideas for.
Yep.
Not this.
Thanks, Lillian. And I'll tell you what I wish we would get back to, and I don't know if you can stuff the genie back in the bottle ever again or not, but it used to be there were certain matters that were not partisan. Right now, Democrats will not comment about what they see, the body parts, the people laughing about having a Lamborghini if they get more money. I mean, absolute, just in my estimation, crimes captured on video. And instead they want to say that they're highly doctored and edited, and they don't want to. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised when ambassador and 3 special forces heroes, congressmen, were slaughtered in Benghazi and they were crying for help. Ambassador Stevens sent a cable. I hope I don't die tonight. I mean, we sent them nothing. We sent them no help. We sent them a drone that was unarmed. Even an armed drone would have saved them. Is nothing sacred anymore, Congressman?
Well, yeah, we keep asking ourselves that question. And just when we think it doesn't become any more absurd, it appears that it does. And while Planned Parenthood has said all along that it has done nothing wrong, today Planned Parenthood announced that it would no longer be accepting payment for fetal tissue. Now, if they were doing nothing wrong all along and they weren't accepting payment for body parts or fetal tissue, why did they say they were going to stop? So is this a tacit admission of guilt? I mean, listeners will have to decide that. But if you string all these things together, as you are very good at doing, Harry, and you look at this Benghazi thing, I was listening today to the interview with the mom of one of the brave Americans who was killed, that Hillary promised. Did you hear that interview? Hillary promised an answer. It broke my heart to listen as she could not get an answer 3 years later when she was promised an answer. And this is not being brought up. And this mom is crying on the phone that her son was killed, and they're telling her she's not entitled to the information. I mean, this is the world we've come to because they're protecting their political backside.
I'll never forget the president and the I was going to say the first lady, but the secretary of state at the time, standing in front of those 4 flag-draped coffins, blaming the attack on that movie. On the video, yeah. I mean, they were inches from the coffins.
Yeah, Susan Rice on how many shows?
Yeah.
2 days later. And they never recounted that.
No. Truly amazing times indeed. 609-407-1450. Let's get one more call in. We're late for a break. We'll catch up right after this call. John, welcome to the program. You are on with your Congressman, Frank LoBiondo. It's Ask the Congressman. Go right ahead.
Congressman, thank you for being part of this forum. My question is real easy. are we going to be able to mend the fences with Israel? Because we've gotten ourselves into quite a problem with them, with our current administration. If you could comment, I'm going to hang up and listen.
Thank you, John.
I say absolutely yes, because the problem is not with the United States. The problem is with the President of the United States. And I think there is very strong bipartisan support in Congress for Israel and for keeping the relationship strong with Israel. And I think because of a lot of the damage that the president has caused, the next president will have a tremendous opportunity to almost immediately repair the damage. That's how I see it. Now, I don't want to belittle what our current president has done and the disaster he has, the pending disaster he's got going with our strongest ally in the Middle East. But I don't see it as irreparable.
John, thank you for a great question. I totally agree. And you could tell, even as hard-hitting as the prime minister was, did you see his speech on the UN floor?
I did.
I was so proud of that. I mean, I wished he could be our president. I was so proud of him. And even though he took big shots at people who have done nothing, he said that we have an unshakable bond with the United States of America. He was statesman, and he was awesome. He knows that we have a quote-unquote 5-minute freak show that's about to leave town, and they're not going to blow up this great relationship, this special relationship, because of one bad actor. It'll be fine once we have a president again.
Right.
Brief time out. More with your Congressman, Frank LoBiondo, 609-407-1450. We've not even scratched the surface in terms of topics. We might talk a little bit more about Syria. We're going to get into possibly some of these aerial drones from the congressman's point of view with what that is doing and a bunch more, including we're in the run-up 3 weeks from now to elections here in the region. We'll see what the congressman has to say about Governor Christie, his presidential run, and anything else that comes up when we come back. More Ask the Congressman on WPG, Talk Radio 1450, South Jersey's talk station.
WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman, brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy. Compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, thanks. Welcome back. I was just saying during the break to the studio audience, it has been just an amazing episode of Ask the Congressman, and we've still got, a little better than 20 minutes. Let's make it count. 609-407-1450. Your phone calls have been great. Keep them coming. 609-407-1450. Congressman, we talked a bit about Syria and Russia, but let me further this Russian aggression in Ukraine, the resurgence by the Taliban in Afghanistan, and at the same time, Obama's talking about only having 1,000 people in Afghanistan. Isn't past prologue where we saw the vacuum he created in Iraq in the age of ISIS that he called the JV, even though all of his intelligence, we have now found out, said they were a tremendous threat. He was the only guy calling them the JV. Nobody for real thought they were the JV at all. This was a real problem. Now Afghanistan, I mean, I know we can't be everywhere, but look at what's happening around us.
Well, very true. And I've been saying this a lot since we've been doing the show, in a very strong bipartisan way, have urged the president to reconsider his strategy in Afghanistan for a couple of years now, because the president made a campaign promise. He's putting a lot at risk here. And it took one of the largest cities in Afghanistan to be overrun by the Taliban a couple of weeks ago for, I think, the president to sort of have a wake-up call. And you've got the general, I think it was Maxwell, I have to remember his name now, who came before Congress and publicly called on the president to revise his strategy in Afghanistan so we don't lose it.
Would you explain to your listeners, Congressman, how rare that is during a time of war, a current president and a sitting general disagreeing with the commander-in-chief? I can never – I mean, honestly, since pretty much, Truman and MacArthur. I can't think of.
It doesn't happen.
It never happens.
It does not happen. But this situation is so compelling, it is so egregious and so dangerous that this patriotic American knew the situation and realized that he had to do this. And this is what we've been saying for some time, this all spins together. This is Syria, this is Afghanistan, this is Yemen, this is Iraq, this is all this coming together. This is ISIS, this is Taliban, this is all these different push points that are blowing up all over the place. All are connected now. They're not all separate.
609-407-1450. Phone lines are blowing up for your Congressman, Frank LoBiondo. I mean that in a good way, because we're going to be talking about things that do blow up in just a second, literally. Greg, you are on the air. Welcome to the program. It's your opportunity to ask the Congressman. Go.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, I just wanted to turn the thoughts more to the Atlantic City Airport. My understanding is, as an international airport and an FAA tech center, unfortunately, we seem to be subsidizing airlines that do not stay with us. If it makes economic sense, airlines will stay there. And one more point, if 24/7 security is so important, and again, given that it is an FAA tech center, there is absolutely no street lights on that 1.5 miles, Amelia Earhart Boulevard, that accesses the airport for our passengers. And that's all I needed to say, and thanks for taking my call.
All right, here comes your answer, Greg. Thanks for listening. Thanks for checking in. Call again.
So the FAA is on the campus, of course, right part of the airport, but the FAA does not operate, run, or control the airport. Roughly a year or so ago, the airport was transferred to the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, which just means that, New York and New Jersey. And it is operated in part, the South Jersey Transportation Authority is on the ground there. And that we have struggled with renovating the terminal, which is a first-class terminal. We have struggled with making sure the infrastructure, the runways are all up to snuff, all in the hopes that we will be able to attract airlines that will give us the service to the points which will attract customers and be able to feed on their own and not have the subsidies. The decisions are made not by the FAA, not by the federal government, that in some cases there needs to be an incentive to try to get airlines to test the waters here. That did not work out so well with United. They did not last very long at all, and you can look back and say that was ill-conceived. There's another move afoot with Air Canada. I haven't heard the report on whether Air Canada is doing well or it's not doing well. That's also subsidized right now. But there probably isn't going to be an airline who's going to come in with the current conditions in Atlantic City and just say, we think this is a great marketplace. It's a growing marketplace. The casinos are doing extremely well. Therefore, we're going to invest in the opportunity to bring flights in and, send flights back out again. So it is a very, very rough situation, but not one that the federal government decides whether or not they will subsidize. That is in no way, shape, or form decided at the federal level.
Your phone calls are going to continue in just a moment. Pat in Ventnor is next. Chuck in Absecon will bat second, and you can join us next at 609-407-1450. It is your opportunity until a few minutes past the top of the hour to ask the Congressman Frank LoBiondo, his monthly program here on WPG Talk Radio 1450. Let me take a moment just from our community bulletin board, and we're going to be promoting this on Hurley in the Morning and here at WPG Talk Radio 1450 and give this a nice push to the run-up. I lost 2 parents to lung cancer. This event is very, very meaningful to me, and we're going to step up and make a contribution. I never ask you to do what I haven't already done. Every breath counts. Walk, run, survive. You're supporting lung cancer awareness. The event is in Ocean City. It is a beautiful area, just like the Hero Walk. You can queue there. It is very, very well laid out for this kind of big event. 6th Street and the Boardwalk in Ocean City at the Ocean City Civic Center. 8 a.m. registration, 10 a.m. race start. Sunday, November 8th is the day. and you can find out more on the website at everybreathcounts.net. Even if you can't make the event itself, because this literally will be the day we're going to be gone. We're leaving that morning for Disney World, so we'll be gone that week. And in fact, that's the first day that we leave. So, but we're going to make a contribution. So even if you can't be there, you can step up. And I don't think there's a person listening that hasn't had a family member or somebody very close to them touched by cancer. This in particular is supportive of lung cancer awareness, which even if you've never smoked, ask Dana Reeve. Secondhand smoke kills. Somebody you know has been touched by this, and you can step up with a nominal donation, and in sheer volume, you can help make this a big financial result. And the effort needs your support. Everybreathcounts.net. Hey, Pat, how are you in Ventnor? And you're on with the man that I think is the finest congressman in America, Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Your question.
Well, hello, Harry, and hello, Congressman, and I most definitely agree with you on what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make him blush or anything, but, I'm the truth in broadcasting. He's the best, and we got him.
Yeah, he sure is. What I wanted to say was, I heard a couple of days ago that, or was it today, I don't know, about Social Security. They are not going to raise Social Security. There will be no increase this year due to the fact that we have cheap gas.
Right. Time for now. What about if the OPEC ministers get freaky? And incidentally, isn't it the third out of 4 years that there's been no increase? So it's not like this is just some wild fluke. So I think that is terrible, and it proves they have no justification for it. You can't. And look, the funny thing about certain prices that don't even count when they're measuring statistics, they want to count as a reason that you can't get a cola. I think that is just completely indefensible, Congressman.
Yeah, I'm so glad, Pat, that you brought this up, because it's starting to sort of resonate. And while I don't think there's been an official announcement, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is the reality of what we're facing. Congress does not have a vote in this. This was a situation that I think, if I'm remembering correctly, goes back to the mid-1970s or around that point in time, when a decision was made by Congress at that time that a formula would be put in place. A formula that maybe worked in 1975 or 80, a formula that does not work today. That formula was broad and wide, and when you plugged everything in, they made a determination of whether there would be an increase in the cost of living for Social Security. I have felt and have called for that formula to be changed for a very long time now. It's just not in sync with what goes on today. You can't tell me you walk into the supermarket and the price of bread and anything you touch in a supermarket has gone down. It has not. And not only has it not gone down, the packaging is smaller than it was, a year or so ago.
And then when the price of gas goes up, they raise the prices of food.
They raise the price of food. So you might say, well, why don't they just, fix the formula? Well, there's a hue and cry to fix Social Security, because all of Social Security is in jeopardy. Not tomorrow. Don't let anybody tell you that your Social Security payments will be cut. But there won't be the president, whoever the president is, and this president said he would look at this when he was elected, and he would form a commission, he would make recommendations, and they would come up with a bipartisan solution that would extend Social Security beyond what its current lifespan is expected to be. And that would be the opportunity to take the formula and refigure it so it reflects today's reality. They're not going to open up, this president is not going to open up the formula by itself, and that's going to hurt seniors. So I hope that the next president will understand that time is of the essence and people are hurting, and that the formula needs to be changed, and really Social Security has to be refigured so we can ensure insolvency beyond where it's going to be.
Thank you very much for that, Congressman, and thank you for explaining that. Just one more thing I want to say really, really quick is Christie has been sort of at the bottom of the barrel, his polling has been sort of low. But, I listened to him over the weekend, and I will say to everybody, don't rule Christie out, because he sounded absolutely terrific. He was like, everything he was saying was so much above par regarding, because I've been listening to all the the people there, that the all the debates and everything else. And he makes quite a bit of sense. So I would say, don't rule him out yet. And I would like to have a president from New Jersey.
Yeah, one we can be proud of, not Woodrow Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Harry.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yep. Let me say just a quick comment about my good friend, Governor Christie, and I know he's your good friend too, Congressman. I give him a lot of credit for the energy that he has been putting into this campaign, because thus far it has been the year of the non-institutional candidate. The top three in the polls have never held elective office. That's not an accident. I give Governor Christie a lot of credit for hanging in there. He's spending a lot of time in New Hampshire. He's got a lot of key people in New Hampshire that are behind him. He is probably doing better than the media will let you believe. And I know the polls have obviously been an issue, but every time he's needed it, though, he has made it to the big boy table. He's been there every time.
Well, there is a situation, a factoid, if you will, that I think has been lost on a lot of people that was announced a couple of weeks ago, and in a very key state, Iowa. And the longest-serving Republican governor, I think almost ever, Terry Branstad. In fact, he came and spoke to Republican members of Congress a couple of weeks ago. Nothing happens in Iowa with the Republican Party without Governor Branstad's either stamp of approval or engineering, but call it what you want. The 6 top biggest Republican fundraisers in Iowa all announced their support for Chris Christie. Now, they urged him to get into the race in 2012, and he did not.
Yes.
But they didn't do this a year ago. They did this like a couple of weeks ago when Trump and, Carson and Fiorina and everybody else was
riding high.
Riding high.
So this means he has apparatus on the ground that is very key.
Now, what if he had no chance at all? Would Branstad be doing this? I mean, I don't know. I'm not good at understanding all these things, but I think there's something here.
Very astute observation. With regrets, we only have time for one more call. And Chuck in Absecon, you've won the LoBiondo lottery. It is you. It's your turn to ask the congressman. Go.
Hey, Frank and Harry, listen. How did we get to this point with this Iran deal? I understand we surrendered the treaty process with the Corker bill, and I'm one that pays attention pretty much, but can you explain to me how we got to this part, that we no longer have a treaty process with this Iran deal?
Sure, I would be happy to. And by the way, Chuck, I tried to call you after I saw you a couple of months ago, and the number I have keeps saying I can't get through. So you need to call the office and get me your contact information. I had a couple of things I just wanted to chat with you, but on this particular issue, the president decided that it was not going to work in the way a normal treaty does. So he decided to handle it as an executive order, which gives you a hint right out of the box that it was a problem. Now, it's wrong. It stinks. It shouldn't be. But he has the ability to decide he was going to handle it as an executive order. Republicans and Democrats in the Senate said, we don't like this idea. We have to do something different. The only thing they could agree to was this disastrous Corker deal, which was a vote of disapproval. The president signed off on it, knowing that if, in fact, he had a position that the Senate disapproved of, he could veto it, and it would take 2/3. He would be able to sustain the 2/3 veto. This thing was wired from the very beginning to be handled like an executive order, not like a treaty. The Democrats decided that they wouldn't even go along with the Corker bill that they signed off on. They wouldn't even allow that to come up for a vote in the Senate. So people who voted to allow the Corker bill that the president signed, then when it came time when the treaty was moving forward, not the treaty, the executive order was moving forward, they denied the vote in the Senate to even took place. We couldn't even vote on the so-called Corker bill to disapprove it. That's how disingenuous this whole thing was.
Wow. Well, I got my answer, Congressman. Harry, you guys have a good night, and Congressman, I will be in touch.
Yep. Thanks, Chuck.
Take care, Chuck. Have a great night. Congressman, we have less than 2 minutes, but I want to get this in and turn it over to you because there's all this technology in the unmanned aerial system, the drones, and you have done great work as it relates to the FAA, and you're bringing something here. Explain to your listeners.
Yes, well, we've got an unmanned symposium that's coming up in Cape May County, and there's tremendous opportunity. We want to make sure the privacy issues are taken care of. We want to make sure the safety issues are taken care of. But the technology is such that the opportunities to create jobs, to impact quality of life issues are so enormous that we just have to be able to move this forward. And the FAA just announced the number one guy. He's a former general, Hoot Gibson, and he's going to be, his first public appearance is going to be in Cape May County at this symposium.
Congressman, 3 weeks before Election Day, basically literally to the day, what's your assessment real quick, your thoughts?
Well, boy, looking at how this is all unfolding with these assembly races, I just can't believe that the Democrats have the audacity. I mean, I saw today $2.5 million so far, and who knows what the last 3 weeks are going to bring. And they have the audacity to put these mailers together that they have. I mean, there isn't anything that they wouldn't stoop to. I have always felt that the voters of our district are pretty smart, see through these things. I sure hope that's the case in this particular instance.
30 seconds, and then we're literally out of here, and it's going to be back to Mark Levin. And I'm going to watch as much. I think it's going to put me to sleep, and I do need to get some good sleep tonight because 2:30 comes around pretty quick. I think Hillary's going to put me sleepy bed by bedtime tonight. But what are your thoughts about the Democrats and their first debate?
Well, I can't wait to see how the avowed socialist handles himself and how the front runner for the Democrats handles the socialist and how he's going to pull her to the left to the socialist position.
Congressman, thank you. What a great episode of Ask the Congressman. We'll be back in the month of November. We'll give you plenty of time in terms of the debate. Congressman, have a great night. And Mark Levin is next. I'm looking at my watch. In less than 12 hours, wake up early in the morning. It's good for you. See you then. Have a great night.